Welcome everybody, this is How to English Teach and Learn with Gav and Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and references will be given when necessary. So Gav, where to start this week?
Let's introduce ourselves. I'm Gav.
And I'm Em.
And who are we?
We are TEFL teachers and we have been teaching English as a foreign language in many different places, many different countries for a very long time.
For many years. That's very true. And why are we here, Em?
We're hoping to impart our wisdom, share some stories, gain a little bit more confidence maybe from each other, and hopefully get some nice feedback from our followers.
And who are our followers, Em?
Well, I guess they're teachers, they're learners, they're anybody who is interested in the EFL world, Gav.
In fact, Em, we have over 1,000 followers.
That is awesome.
And they listen around 1,000 times per month.
Okay, this is starting to sound a bit like a riddle. If 1,000 followers listen 1,000 times a month, then how many devices are they using?
Plus, we currently have 20 5-star reviews on Spotify, Em.
Well, that is fantastic. Thank you, those 20 people who gave us 5 stars.
How did they do that, Em?
I think you have to go to wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you go to our podcast, and you go to rate this show or give a review, something like that, and you press the 5 stars, not the 1 star, the 5 stars.
And possibly, if you have a chance to review us and write something nice, we're always happy to read it.
And even share us with a friend, with a colleague, with someone who you think might like it.
And they too can become a follower of Gavin M's How to English Pod. And what's more, Em, we've got over 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel with more than 100 views per month and many visitors to our website too.
And that's where you can see the transcriptions and video format or video versions of the show.
And you can check out all 5 seasons of our podcast with, as you said, Em, transcriptions.
That's enough about us, Gav. Let's talk about our students and our lessons this week.
Well, before we do, Em, I just need to clarify something. Do you remember I said Norge?
No.
Do you remember we were talking about Swedes and Finns and I said...
Norge. You said there's no such thing as a Norge.
A Norge is not a person from Norway.
Are you going to tell me there is a Norge now?
No, but Norge is the Norwegian name for Norway.
Is it really?
So there is a Norge, it's just not the people.
Very confusing. And I didn't know that. Very good. Thank you for that little bit of info, Gav.
You're very welcome. So how are we going to begin our recollections of the last week's teaching, Em?
Well, you tell me, Gav, what comes to your mind when you think back to your last work week? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I'm demonstrating the topic that we're going to cover now, Em. You ready?
Yes.
I'll do it again.
Nobody comes?
No. Exactly how long should a teacher wait for a student to respond?
Ah, okay.
Because we have covered this, but perhaps not in enough detail.
Well, it's different, I think, depending on if you're face-to-face or online. And that also depends if you're online, whether you can see the person or not, and whether they're moving. If their eyes are moving, if they're blinking, then you know they're there, because I've had situations where I haven't been able to see the student online. The camera's been off. So you never know if they're thinking about something, they need a word, they're just trying to put that sentence together in their head, or whether they've just gone off to feed the cat. You just don't know online. So it's harder. But face to face, you can see the person, you know they're giving it some thought, you know they're coming up with an answer.
You can see perspiration forming on their forehead.
I could wait a long time. If they're aware of me looking at them and they know I'm waiting for an answer.
But what if they start squirming and you think to yourself, oh no, they're really uncomfortable, I need to step in. How do you step in them?
Well, so you're saying it's a question like, what's this grammar point answer? What's the answer to question number 3 or whatever? Not a how are you today kind of question.
It could be any kind of question. Maybe they don't know how they are.
I would give them some options. So if you are doing an exercise for a grammar thing, you can say, well, if it's a preposition, is it the word in or at or on? What one of those answers do you think it is? Narrow it down a bit. Or you could then do the thing I always do, which is anyone else? Can anyone else help?
That only works with a group class, though.
Of course it does. But that also is quite a nice support system to say other people can help you if you need it.
I also give them a choice of 50-50, call a friend, or ask the audience.
So ask the audience would be your classmates. 50-50, how would that work?
Or on.
Right, so a bit like my idea.
Which of those prepositions, yeah.
Phone a friend?
Well, maybe that's use the internet.
Okay, that works if they've got something they can use. But generally, 9 times out of 10, you just wait that little bit longer than you ordinarily would, and something will be produced.
Or you would tell them the answer.
Yeah, last resort. You just say what it is, don't you?
With a kind of dismissive voice.
No, with a reassuring
sigh.
You almost got it. I'm sure you were nearly there. It was on the tip of your tongue. I've just nudged you a little bit. I've actually just said it. But that's okay. That's fine. This is a safe space. Why are you asking about this, Gav?
Because I was very curious to know how long is not too long to wait. Because I've had a couple of moments in my classes this week and I thought, should I keep waiting? Should I step in? Shall I call one of their classmates to help answer? And I guess with students, it could be different depending on their personalities, depending on the class dynamics. I also say, student A, what's the answer to number 1? And student B jumps in and tells me.
Student B, wait your turn.
That's what I thought. But then it's kind of fun that everybody wants to join in and support each other.
Like a class of 5-year-olds.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Better than the opposite, where they're all just sitting back, not bothered. But I would always say, whoa. We're just taking turns. And then if they have cut in, then say, okay, this question's for you, student A. You answer this one.
And student B has forfeited their turn.
Exactly. You skip student B on that particular exercise. But as you said, Gav, it does depend on the students. And if you get to know your students, I think you do learn who needs a bit longer, who will probably start talking, look like they've finished, breathe, and then continue. And you will need, ironic, and you will need to wait until they've finised. Because
me. Can I say something?
Because you know they're not going to finish in the middle. They're going to keep going.
Tip, a really good...
You're just interrupting me now.
A really good tip for students is,
yeah,
that is a good one, isn't it?
It does help.
Because you've acknowledged that you've told the teacher, I'm trying to answer your question.
Yes.
You filled that vacuum of nervousness.
You'd have an extra lesson or an extra little mini lesson, hoping that one student who does need that bit of time would take your subtle hint to use these little noises so that you know they're buying time. Just a sound, an utterance, just to buy a bit of time. It's really important that students know this, and that means you don't start talking and it isn't awkward. Gav, this week I have had some genuinely, and I mean genuinely, interesting lessons.
Are they not always interesting, Em?
Honestly, not always. Sometimes they're a bit repetitive, sometimes they're a bit simplistic, but I have had some very complicated lessons where students have been trying to explain very complicated machinery or concepts, and we've been getting into the real meat of it. We've been getting right in there and communicating in a way that doesn't feel like an English lesson. It just feels like people trying to communicate something together.
Those are the best lessons where you forget that you're having a lesson. the students forget that they're learning English and instead you're meaningfully communicating.
Yeah, it's gold.
Could you present some of that to us now, Em? Have you got your slideshow with you? Is it in this satchel?
It wasn't me that had the slideshow, it was the student who had the slideshow. So, no, I haven't got the slideshow, but it was 2 types of lesson. There was one about...
Can I interrupt you before you tell us all this very interesting information? How did you set up the exercise? Did you ask the other students to listen carefully, write down some questions during the presentation,
No.
or possibly interrupt because you wanted to make it even more dynamic?
Didn't need to, really. It was everyone was on the same page. Everybody had interest in the topic. They all work in the same company, so we were talking about the machines in the company, and I asked what I thought was a simple question, which was, do you have a favourite machine?
That is a really good question. Em, do you have a favourite machine?
I think my laptop's probably my favourite machine, but I don't have a lot of, I suppose I do have a lot of options. No, actually, sorry, Gav. Can I change it?
Go on.
Can we just say device?
Yes.
The kettle is that a device or an appliance? It's an appliance.
That is an appliance. That's a kitchen appliance, usually.
That's my favourite thing.
Is it?
Yeah. But these are very simple machines or devices. But this is a company who work with very complicated machines. So when I say to them, have you got a favourite machine? The answer is yes. And the reason for that is very in-depth and complicated. So me trying to understand why the laser-headed particle sprayer is cool is a fun lesson, Gav. It's really quite interesting.
You've made it sound a lot more intriguing than I initially thought it might be.
And the other lesson was all about logistics and terminology that the company use, but the students didn't really know what the words were in English, so they had to describe all these processes, and then I was there trying to work out what they would be in English, which was quite challenging, but also very fun.
Initially, these don't sound very engaging, Em, but I can see from the passion that you've put into describing it to us that it must have been very, very interesting. Now, can you tell us, Em, me and the followers, what is the benefit to the student in spending their time telling you about these things?
Well, in the real world, Gav, they might need to do that. If there's somebody that's out of the company that needs to understand what's going on. But also, I think it's just a very good skill to have, to be able to describe things well and define things. So it's all good. I think it's all good for English practice.
Because these are probably words, processes, using specific grammar that you would be able to do easily in your own language, in your first language, but trying to describe these things in another language could have a lot of challenges.
And even if the students are not working in companies, as I've mentioned, even just a process like how do you iron a shirt? For example, yesterday I had a student struggling to describe how she has to pick up her daughter's clothes from the bedroom floor and put them in the wardrobe, sort them out, hang them up. It's not easy.
There's a lot of phrasal verbs there, Em.
Often it does include phrasal verbs. So even the most basic description of a job can be quite a challenge, yeah.
Em, on the topic of business, let's introduce Matt Abrahams from Stanford Graduate School of Business. He's here to talk about his podcast, Think Fast, Talk Smart. Let's have a listen to him.
Strong communication skills are critical for success in business and in life. Hi, I'm Matt Abrahams, and I host Stanford Graduate School of Business's Think Fast, Talk Smart, the podcast. Each week, I sit down with experts to discuss the best tips to help you with your communication skills, from conflict management to mastering small talk to tackling communication anxiety. Join us and start to develop and hone your communication skills. Listen every Tuesday wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. That is all very interesting. And followers, you can find links to Matt's show in our show notes.
I was wondering to myself, why do we ask students only to speak English in our classes? Because I have listed a few reasons why I think it's best to speak English in the class as much as possible. For example, the students may make a mistake. And I don't know if they've made a mistake because I don't speak their language. So when one student says, hey, what does confident mean? And another student answers in their own language, it means this, and then they say the word. I don't know if that's correct or not.
That is a good reason. I think also the students get into a groove of thinking. I have students often who halfway through a lesson don't know the word in English, and then they say, I can't even remember what it is in my own language. And then I realise, well, that's because you're just not thinking in your own language right now. And if you switch back, it's almost like you're stopping the train in motion. So I always promote just get into the groove of English and keep there. Don't deviate from that because it really does get easier. You get more fluent. It becomes more natural.
I agree. I also added to my notes that it's quite rude to start speaking a different language.
Yeah, if there's someone in the room who doesn't know that language.
Well, me, for example, I don't know their language.
And other students don't always speak the same language.
That could be the case.
So it's worth remembering that too.
I particularly feel sad and left out when the students all make a joke in their own language, all laugh, and then I'm sitting there feeling a bit isolated, Em. Maybe they're ganging up against me and they're all perhaps making jokes about my new haircut, or they think the way I teach English is terrible and they're all laughing about it. How do I know what they're laughing about?
Yeah, so I think you should also, as a student, think about that in any situation, not just a lesson, but if you're in a meeting and there's people there that don't speak your language and you're all chatting away and they're just sitting there, it's a bit rude, I think. So I always make the effort to speak a universal language, which is what we're there for.
Include everyone. I also feel a little bit sorry for my students because often they say, oh, we've got a really good expression for this in our language, which summarises exactly this situation. And I say, well, describe it to me. Maybe we've got an expression in English too.
And they're capable of doing that usually. There's no reason to just say it in whatever language and everyone go, ha 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 ha, and you're like, and what was that? Yeah.
As we've agreed, treat your English lessons as you treat real life. Courteously, respectfully, and without too much backchat.
Yeah. Inclusive. I think that's the right word. Gav, can I make a confession?
You can, but this is not actually the right place, Em.
No, I know. It's not that kind of confession. It's actually involving you. I overheard you the other day teaching.
How was that even possible, Em?
You were in the next classroom and I overheard you as I walked past the door.
Em, you should not be earwigging on other teachers' lessons. How do you know I wasn't gossiping about you?
Well, I know you wouldn't do that, but no, I wasn't earwigging or eavesdropping. I just overheard.
What did you hear, Em?
Well, I heard a moment of conversation where you were saying to the I think it was a one-to-one, you were saying to the student, can you help me? Because my other students say this thing wrong. And I just wonder how to correct them because it's so often the case.
Em, are you trying to infer that I was teaching this student under some ruse of deception by talking about a fictional group?
My suspicion is that this was quite a high-level student and you wanted to, let's say, protect their ego a little. So rather than say to them, you said this wrong, haha, you said, I've got a lot of students who say ... and I don't know why they say ... but what's the problem here? Because you know a lot of English and you're very experienced. I'm just interested to know if that is your strategy sometimes.
Em, you are right. That is one of the techniques that I employ in order to indirectly correct students.
And I'm interested because I have some high-level students too, and I sometimes feel like I'm patronising them a bit if I say, did you say on Monday or at Monday? And they know the mistake is such a basic elementary mistake that they actually get quite embarrassed, I think, that they've said it wrong. So if you pose it as, a lot of my lower level students say at Monday, do you have any idea why they say at Monday?
And could you also tell me how I can fix that problem so they don't keep saying it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely a technique that I use frequently, and I don't think my students realise that. Well, they might now because they've probably listened to the show.
Cat's out the bag now, Gav.
Whoops. But it can be quite effective when you say to a student something like, I teach other people who speak your language, and this seems to be quite a typical mistake.
Yeah.
And then, you go into it, break it down, say to the student, so what's a good way to help my other students to fix this problem? And they might give you some suggestions. Otherwise, I think just raising the topic can be enough.
I'm wondering if they do realise what you're doing, or whether they do just think, well, why doesn't he know? Because he's the teacher. Why is he asking me? But I think they're actually quite happy to be seen as an equal and to actually just be asked something about the methodology of teaching.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm bringing them into my confidence, and I feel that brings them even closer to me, and that trust is a little bit stronger. And they do have some good suggestions on how to fix these errors.
And whether or not they realise they're making those mistakes for real is another question, I guess. You'll know if they keep making the same mistake. And then I guess you do just say, you know that thing I was talking about? Well, you're making the same mistake.
Well, I'm glad I could be of some assistance there. If you need to put a glass to the door of my classroom, then you are very welcome, Em.
Thanks, Gav. Maybe you just leave the door ajar in the future.
You won't need a glass at all.
No, it'll be a lot easier.
We've had a lot of questions about the podcast art.
The podcast art is fabulous.
It really draws you in, and you start thinking, oh, what are these different designs that are on Gavin M's How to English podcast cover? What are they telling me about this new episode?
I think every episode is always very vibrant, attractive, easy to understand, very clear. And who is the
amazing artist behind these creations? That's what you're asking me.
That was exactly as it was coming out my mouth. You finished it for me, yes. Who is responsible for this incredible artwork?
Gav.
Yeah.
And possibly a little help from AI.
Not me.
Followers, if you're interested in having some fun with AI, all you need to do is go to playground.com, set up your own account. And what you can do is type a description into the platform and it will create a picture for you. And then you can start overlaying some stuff as we do on our show. So if you're interested, go and check that out.
What do you mean, Gav, by description? Like a sofa with the donut on top?
That is it, exactly. Except I would say muffin, chocolate,
yes.
sofa, room.
So it's just a list of words, to be honest.
It can be, but you could say plush or leather couch, red.
Muffin with sprinkles, something like that. You can get quite specific about it.
That's it, exactly. Or it could be quite abstract. You could say polygonal, dynamic,
purple,
retrograde,
diamond,
columns, speech bubbles. I don't know. Whenever you want to go with it, you can be as creative as you want. And also the AI can come up with some suggestions too.
And you never know what it's going to actually create, I suppose. So it's always a bit of a surprise when it delivers the picture and you're thinking, that was not what I was expecting, but I like it.
That's true. It's also got some filters if you want to go for some particular styles. It's kind of cool.
I can see an evolution, Gav, from the first artwork to now. It's definitely better and better.
And for the finishing touches, I would suggest using canva.com. Create a free account there and you can do loads of cool stuff with your AI pictures and anything else that you collect along the way.
Good tips, Gav. Very good tips.
Thanks, Em. To finish off the show, we need to do
Quiz of the Week. I didn't realise it was that time already.
I know, it's come so quickly. I have spent the last few weeks, let's say, trying to put together this Quiz of the Week.
Well, I appreciate your hard work, Gav. I hope it's fun.
Well, I can't promise that, but I certainly pushed myself to try and create a series of carry coats.
Carry coats.
Carry coats.
I have no idea what a carry coat is.
Perhaps translate it into French for me, Em.
No, can't do that either.
Porter, to carry.
Yeah.
Manteau, coat.
Portmanteau.
Portmanteau, exactly, Em, which is a kind of large trunk or suitcase.
So you're talking about portmanteau words like brunch
Brunch.
is a portmanteau because it combines breakfast and lunch together.
That is correct. That's an example of a portmanteau. Before we go any further, Em, I remember that
What's it got to do with a suitcase?
Em, did you know the word portmanteau is in fact a portmanteau?
Well, I think you might have just given me the clue that porter and coat together is a portmanteau. So it's like a travelling case for coats. And I didn't know that, Gav. No.
Created by the famous novelist who wrote Alice in Wonderland.
Lewis Carroll.
Yes.
Invented the word portmanteau or just adopted it from the French?
Created the word portmanteau.
Wow.
Before we go any further, Em, I remembered that during last episode's Quiz of the Week, I forgot to elicit from you information.
Yep. What would that have been, Gav? Because I don't even remember yesterday. What are we talking about exactly? The quiz was skills you should have if you're a TEFL teacher, right?
Patience, ability to do things again and again and again.
Flexibility.
That's
I think
it, all
we
of
talked
those.
About, yeah.
Now, I failed in eliciting from you, before we even started the quiz, what skills you thought would be necessary for a TEFL teacher, which is why I did not get the top grade during my CELTA exam.
Okay.
And a failure that continues until this day.
Haunts
But
you.
just occasionally, I do remember to ask the student, do you know any portmanteaus? And you've already given us brunch, which is brilliant.
Right.
What's really interesting, Em, about your example is that it's not two words put together, is it?
So it's only half of each word. So that's...
Not exactly half, but there are some letters missing
Yeah.
from each of those two words.
So a portmanteau definitely is squished together words, not words that...
Squished and
removed.
subtracted.
Yeah, okay.
Is not a compound noun. Like, for example, to open a bottle you would use...
Bottle opener.
Yes, I was thinking corkscrew.
Or a cork. Depends what kind of bottle. Okay, I understand what you're saying. And you know when you ask your students, can you think of anything? And they all look completely blank, and that's how I'm feeling right now.
And that's how you look, Em.
Now I've said brunch, I can't think of a
Well,
single
brunch
other
is
one.
a great start. You seem a bit stuck. Shall I give you the first one, and you can tell me if you're familiar with this portmanteau?
Yes.
Okay, let me just take one of the cards from my pocket. I have a little dragon, and it's 10 points, and I think it's going to beat your little dragon. This is a...
Pokemon?
Pokemon card. Pokemon is a portmanteau.
Pocket Monster.
Pocket Monster. Em, you are good at this game.
I did know that, actually, deep down somewhere in the portmanteau of my brain. I knew that.
You clearly did. Now, I'm going to make it a bit more interesting, Em. I'm not simply going to tell you some portmanteaus.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some words, and I want you to tell me if they're real portmanteaus or if Gav has just made them up.
Fun. Okay, let's try that.
Here we go. I've got quite a few, so just tell me when you get bored.
I will. Don't worry. And followers also. Play along.
Here we go. Our first word is cosplay.
I have definitely heard of that. Cosplay, but I guess it's costume play?
Well, it's not play because we know
No.
it must be missing some letters in that second half.
Costume.
Imagine they're Final Fantasy figures. They're pretending to be those
Player.
What do we do with our students? We say, okay, you're the receptionist, I'm the guest.
Role play! Phew, that was hard. Costume role play.
That's it. Costume and role play is cosplay. Now, our second word is radiplora.
Radiplora.
Would you like me to spell it for you?
Yes.
Radiplore.
P-L-O-R-E-R. I'm guessing it's real, but I've never heard of it. Is it real?
Well, what two words do you think it's made of?
Like radiator? Plura, like... No idea.
Explorer, maybe?
Oh.
Radio Explorer? Radiator I don't know.
You do know, because you're asking me. This is your quiz.
Okay, well, I'm afraid it's not a word. It's completely made up. Radiplora doesn't make any sense.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks.
I thought that was the curveball you were throwing in. No, okay. Give me the next one.
Enviroator. Enviroator. Enviroator.
Sounds like something like environment and exterminator or something like that. So, pest control?
Is it real or fake?
Fake.
Of course it's fake. Well done.
Okay.
Next one. Friendsurance.
Friendsurance.
Friensurance. Friendsurance.
Well, friend is a word like friendship, maybe. Insurance together, like the feeling of safety you have with a friend. Is this a new word that I've never heard of? I've never heard of it. I'm going to say fake.
It is fake, but it should be real.
I definitely need some friendsurance when I go out on a night out.
Your friend's got your back, or possibly when you're feeling a bit sad, you call your friend up and you get that friendsurance. Maybe we could start that movement right now.
We should just post it somewhere, like it's always been around.
Our next word is stagflation.
I know this. This is an economics phrase of stagnation and inflation together. Is it when inflation just stays the same and doesn't go down again?
It's a continuous period of high inflation and unemployment, Em. Do you know which era this is from?
Pooh. I think it's relevant now, Gav, but I guess it's from the 1920s?
1965. Not bad. Oh. Well done. Okay. Next one is telefoo.
Telefoo.
Telefoo. Telefoo.
I think that's fake. I can't think of any word with foo in it.
No.
Television, but not foo.
No, not food.
Yeah, but that's should be at the beginning. I don't know how portmanteaus work, but I don't think they end with open words.
It's not great, is it? All right, forget that one. That was fake. You're right. Next one is octonaut.
Octonaut?
Would you like me to spell that one?
No, I think oct as in 8 and naut like astronaut. Is it an 80-year-old astronaut?
Oh, is that your final answer?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I just made it up, Em.
It should be, shouldn't it?
I thought it was quite good as an 8-people space crew.
Ah, that works too.
It's completely fake, I'm sorry.
I quite like my idea. Why don't 80-year-olds go into space? I think there's a lot of medical reasons for that, but...
Oh, I thought you meant like they're 80 years old after they've been into space.
Like an anniversary kind of thing. No, I didn't. But, well, that could also work. Next one, I think, Gav.
Hichu.
Hichu.
Hichoo. Hichu.
Is it like a hiccup that is a sneeze? Like hiccup but hachu at the same time?
It sounds like one.
I think it's fake.
Of course it's fake. But it's good though, isn't it? That's another one we could introduce.
I'm not sure what the game is. I feel like I'm just defining new words here.
But it's not a real portmanteau, Em. That's what you're identifying.
There's a lot of fake ones here, Gav. A lot of fake ones. I think you were having fun with this.
Here we go. Next one is volcademic. Volcademic.
Is that an epidemic of volcanoes? Exploding. I don't think it's real.
No, it's not real, because the study of volcanoes would be...
Volcanology?
It is. So you will not be a volcademic if you study volcanoes.
Ah, you were thinking like academic, not epidemic. Okay.
Now, let me try this common word with you. Electrocute. Is that a portmanteau?
Well, it's a word, electrocute. Is it something about execution by I don't think it's a portmanteau. I think it's just a word. Electrocute.
It's just a word.
A verb, to electrocute someone.
Right. So it's not a portmanteau of electricity and execute from the late 19th century.
I don't know. It sounds like it is.
I'm sorry, you have failed to answer this correctly.
That's a portmanteau, but it's lost its original idea then. Because electrocute doesn't mean to kill someone.
No, you're right. It could mean to be killed or harmed by electricity.
It could be that somebody worked on some power lines and was electrocuted.
That is true. No, but electrocution is definitely a form of
death.
deaf. First introduced as a portmanteau in the late 19th century, a combination of electricity and execute.
Very interesting. Give us a couple more, Gav.
Popsicle.
Popsicle is definitely a portmanteau of something like icicle and lollipop.
Well done. Introduced when?
1956.
1920s.
I was right the other time.
How about the word splatter?
I guess it is a portmanteau of I don't know.
Splash and spatter.
Yeah.
And weirdly, the word splatter has now become more common than the word spatter.
We don't say spatter.
No. Can you guess when we introduced the word splatter?
80s.
18th century. 1785, in fact.
I said 80s being in 1980s. It was 1780s. Okay. That's nice. So I wouldn't say I was spattered with mud. I would say I was splattered with mud. At the 1720s, they would say I was spattered.
Until this word was introduced.
Maybe we needed it, Gav. Maybe we really needed that extra little splat.
It gives me the sound of a tomato hitting the ground. We need to return to this topic of onomatopoeic words.
Anyway,
I'm getting distracted. My last one is the word stash.
Dash would be stock and cash.
Nearly stow and cash. Spelled C-A-C-H-E. Late 18th century.
Time of bank robbers, perhaps.
Plenty of cash around.
But it's also an action to stash the cash.
Nowadays it's just hack and fish.
What are you talking about?
We don't have cash so much. We have online bank accounts where they send you a phishing email.
Fish with a PH.
I'm just thinking of my stash of chocolate muffins in the cupboard. Gav, I would say that was a portmanteau of portmanteaus. You see what I did there?
Did you just make a portmanteau out of Portmanteau and Utopia?
Yes, Gav. I just invented portmanteau.
Wow. Thank you very much to rd.com/articles/portmanteau-words where I've pilfered a few of these very nice portmanteaus.
They were interesting, and thank you to you with your new ones. I think we could definitely start something with those, Gav, like Frensurance and Octonauts.
It's quite niche, that one. Might start a
TV program. The Octonauts. Good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm going to catch you next week with a fistful of ideas that we can elaborate on.
Looking forward to it, Gav.
Catch you then. Ciao.